Hi, I'm Stephen Weber, and you're watching The Claw's Corner because Rich Sear is a sick bastard.
Welcome to the latest episode of The Claw's Corner. Today's guest is an actor and producer. His movies include Orchard Beach, Crackdown, The Ungovernable Force, Vamp Bikers, High and Tight, and The Genesis. He is most well known as the war chief of the Orphans in the 1979 iconic film The Warriors. He then transitioned into the music business, working with bands such as New Edition and the Fat Boys. He then went on to be a social worker helping AIDS patients, but is back acting in and producing movies. Please welcome Ramos, King of Queens, the man that made the phrase, "We're gonna rain on you, Warriors," famous. Of course, I'm talking about the one, the only, Apache Ramos. Welcome to the Claw's Corner.
Hey, thank you, Rich. Thank you, Rich. And before we start, I just want everybody to know that you are and forevermore an honorary orphan, brother.
I am a very proud orphan. Thank you.
Just get used to not being invited to places.
Well, as you said many times, the orphans were like the Rodney Dangerfield of gangs.
That's right. That's right. Yes,
it.
we are. Yes, we are. And the Warriors is the Rocky Horror of gang movies. You know,
Yes.
every time I see a little kid on Halloween dressed up as a Fury, it just makes me so happy. You know, to think that what's it, 43 years ago we made the film came out in February 1979, and you know I was like 24, 25, and you know I'm working on 69 coming up, and it's amazing that people are still interested in the characters and the actors and anything that's related to the film The Warriors. It's resonated with a lot of people, and when I get to do meet and greets, because I don't get to do a lot of them, but when I do get to do them, I always ask, what was the first time you saw The Warriors, and how do you feel about it? Why do you dig it so much? And the stories I hear are really good. It's like one guy told me, well, you know, my father took me. He was supposed to take me to. He told my mother he was taking me to see the Lady in the Tramp, but he took me to see The Warriors. And you know, my father's no longer with me, but every time I see the movie, and he liked your part in particular when Michael Beck threw the Molotov cocktail in that second look. He always used to laugh. So.
Oh yeah.
You know, you get to hang out with people like that, and it means a lot to them. It's like being on the bench on the Super Bowl team. You still get the ring, you know.
Exactly. And you, as people have told you many times, you have a very memorable but small role. I mean, I recognize you right away, and I know that line. And it's funny because you are like Roy Scheider in Jaws. He made that line, "We're gonna need a bigger boat." You made up that line, and Walter Hill said, "I want to keep that line." And that's such an iconic line. People know when you say that, "Oh, I love that movie, The Warriors." You know exactly what I'm talking about, even before I finish the phrase.
Yeah, it's become part of pop culture. I remember when the Lakers, when they won the NBA title with Shaq, and Shaq goes, "Can you dig it?" You know, when to the audience, I mean, that's you know, that's classic Warriors. You know, it's just, and it's amazing how many doors it's opened up for me in terms of meeting new people, and people just treat me extra nice because I was in the Warriors. It really helped. When I was a social worker, the South Bronx, not for the meek or the timid. That helped me out a lot. You know, I would hear it. I would come out of the subway on 138th Street on the number 4 train, and early in the morning, and I tell people I speak English, Spanish, and a language called Macedonian, you know, because there was a Methadone center right there. Yeah. And I would come out and be, Mr. Ramos, you know, help me out, you know, here. And I'm like, man, I haven't even got to the office yet. But they would go, "Warriors come out to play," you know. I don't know how many times I've heard that. And I don't know how many times I said, "We're going to rain on you." I've said that so many times. And
yeah,
I've said it in different these independent movies that I'm working with, because I love working with these young directors. They're the only ones calling me. So I come and I get to work, you know, so it's fun.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And hey, you get to work. That's the best part. Before we even get into that, I want to talk about how we first met. I just met you 2 weeks ago at the Chiller convention, but originally I met you at the 35th anniversary of the Warriors in Coney Island at the Wonder Wheel. You had most of the cast there. It was such a fun time. Got to hang out with everybody, got to watch the movie with the Warriors. And you were the first person I met. I remember I parked my car, I walked, you weren't even in the tents or anything yet. It was still early, but you came out and, hey, can I get a picture with you? Oh, come on, let's take a picture. We're like family here. And you came out of nowhere, extremely friendly. And first thing I said was, this is going to be a great day.
Yeah, it was, the sun was shining. I think it was the 35th anniversary.
Yeah.
Like you said, we had most of the cast, and it was so many people came out. You know, I've heard all kinds of different numbers, but I know the place was packed. But you're talking about when it was early in the morning. We hadn't really set up yet.
Yes.
I just saw the people coming, and there's certain times I go to Coney Island, people will recognize. So I was like, yo, what's up? The orphans, you know, I always stick up for the orphans, repping the orphans. And I feed off the people, you know what I'm saying? I just feed off it. And my daughter was with me, and I had my Tony Soprano shirt on.
Yep.
Well, that's what my girlfriend just said. I look like Tony Soprano. But
you do.
It was a great day. That was a great day.
I loved it because, you know, what's great. Two of my favorite movies of all time are The Warriors and Jesus Christ Superstar. And I'm so happy because I'm interviewing you. I interviewed Ted Neely, who played Jesus, but also I got a chance to watch the movie with the Warrior cast and also the Jesus Christ Superstar cast. So those two moments I will never, ever forget. And just the Warriors, I remember 1979, I was 11 years old. I remember seeing it, and I've watched it probably over 100 times now. And I know I could probably act in that movie. I could do a one-man show, all the parts.
When I go, I used to go, I've been a few times, I haven't gone recently, due to the pandemic and stuff too, which messed up a lot of things. But Coney Island, when they have the Coney Island Film Festival at midnight, they would play the Warriors. And people know every single line. I mean, that's why I equate it to the Rocky Horror thing, because people come dressed up. And once in a while, you get an orphan or two, you know?
Oh, yeah.
We get an orphan, you know, I can always tell it's the green shirt, really easy to make. And Bobby Mannix, who made the costumes, incredible woman. I mean, the Warrior vest is like, it's really iconic now. And I, you know, always kid around with her and say, what happened with the orphans? You know, we had the shitty little green T-shirt with orphans in the back. And she said, truth is, Apache, we ran out of money. We just ran out of money. I was like, Paramount Pictures ran out of money. But it just works with my shtick. It just works with being an orphan, you know, the whole bit, you know. Yeah.
Well, I want to talk about that because it's funny. Walter Hill, the director, we're going to get into all this, but he did not want you to see the Warriors at first. So I want to hear your initial reaction as you saw them walking down the street.
Yeah. Well, you know, I always tell people I was born in Brooklyn, raised in the Bronx, and that's why my blood type is B positive. But yeah, I grew up in the Bronx, you know, so I knew gangs growing up, and you know, I grew up in the 60s and the 70s in the Bronx, and you know, there's some rough times in the Bronx, you know, rough times for New York City, you know, the President of the United States go to hell, you know, so it was rough times. So I seen a lot of things. I seen a lot of things and a lot of bad things, but within that comes art, and that's why you had, you know, breakdancing and hip hop came from that, and the ashes, you know, comes a phoenix. But what was the question again? I get thrown off.
The question was Walter Hill, the director.
Oh yeah. So
go ahead.
All right. So Paul Greco, rest in peace. He was orphan number one. I was orphan number two. Although I've seen in the video games he had one name and they called me Jesse. I have a T-shirt. They said to call me Jesse, but really with the script, it was orphan number one and orphan number two. And, you know, like you said, we didn't see them. And, you know, in your mind, when you read a book, it's different than seeing a film, you know, what you picture. So I'm picturing a whole different kind of situation there with what the Warriors look like. And Paul, you know, Paul was a street kid too, you know, he knew what was going down. And we immediately hit it off because we were just happy to be in a film, a Paramount Pictures, you know. an overfed, long hair, leaping unknown, trying to be the star of a Hollywood movie, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so finally, Walter liked to water the sets, and at night it looked really, really good when you watered down the sets. And, I'm ready. I can't really see because I don't have my glasses on. And we see that they're coming. We're getting a little excited. When I saw them, not for nothing, but I see, the blonde hair, I see Fox and, it just didn't look real to me. So I was like, man, come on, get out of here. But they're paying me to do this. So I'm going to do it, the best I can. So I did it, but I don't know how it worked, just like how anybody could imagine somebody with a baseball outfit with a kiss face drawn on your face could be so sinister in Central Park. I mean, what gay would do that? But anyways, it just worked, and thank God it did. And Michael Beck turned out to be really one of the most nicest human beings on the planet. Just a wonderful guy. In fact, the whole cast is pretty tight when we get together. I just wish the promoters would get some more, use more of the B squad, which I think is going to happen now. I call us the B squad, the junior varsity, the ones that make the Warriors look great.
Yeah.
But we don't get enough gigs. But I think now that there's so many avid collectors of autographs, they want to get as many autographs as you can. I mean, when I was at Chilla, I finally got invited. Well, actually, I got invited 2 years before the pandemic, but I got really, really sick then. So I couldn't attend. But when I was at Chilla, somebody walked in with 40 vests, Warriors vests, and Rogues vests, 40 of them for me to sign. So I was like, yeah, okay, $40 a shot. That was pretty good, And the promoter, the agent that I'm working with now, he's like, yeah, Apache, I have a lot of people want you guys to come out to the West Coast because, the Warriors have done a million of these things, which they, God bless them. But some of us, like the Lizzies and the Orphans and some of the Riffs, whoever's still alive, people want those autographs as well. And so I'm glad I'm going to get a few more gigs coming up. In fact, I got one shameless promotion. I think it's June 2nd. I think it is, or something that I'll tell you later, but I know it's coming up. I'm doing it.
Yeah, no, you know what? By the end of the show, I'm going to let you promote all you want. So
I can. I don't even remember, anyways. But yeah, so yeah, it's been a fun thing. Actually, it was Mercy, Debbie V, that got me involved with this about 12 years ago. Said, Apache, come on down, cast members, and because I had met her when I was in the record business. She had come. We had bumped heads. You see people. You know how New York is.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I lost you. Hold on.
No,
Hold on. There you go.
Right. Hi.
Jazz.
Oh boy.
I lost her.
Oh, please stand by. I can still hear you. I
can hear you too. I can hear you too. But here, my Jazz will come here in a minute and fix it.
All right. Yeah.
I touched this by mistake. She goes, "You're fine."
Yeah, and I can see him.
There you go.
All right, there we go. Hey, how's it going?
Don't touch anything. Okay.
Step away from the computer. Step away.
That's right.
Oh yeah. So, anyways, you were saying that. Yeah, I love the fact that there's a research. I think the resurgence started. Correct me if I'm wrong, but when the video games came out in the 90s.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was working for New York then. I was working for my city, New York, as in social services, and I remember being in Lizzie territory. 14th Street, Union Square, and coming up the stairs, and all of a sudden everything was Warrior, the video game. You saw the little gangs. I was like, whoa, and that just developed. Right now, somebody on this planet is kicking my ass. That's a good thing, I guess. But yeah, right. Right now, because of the video game gave us a whole nother audience, and when the fathers who took their sons, those kids are now taking their sons to go see, and daughters, let me say, also to see the Warriors. It's like I said, when we did it, I didn't think it was just a gig. I learned more about the Warriors from the fans when they write me or I talk to them, with my Facebook thing. And like, I didn't know that my tattoo, the Puerto Rican flag, is the only flag in the movie. I didn't know that. Somebody told me that, So I get plenty of opportunities when I do things. Apache, I know a lot of tattoo artists. I'll fix up your flag, make it. I said, no, it's fading like I'm fading. Let it go. That was 1973 San Francisco,
Yeah.
when I was doing my summer stock, my apprenticeship.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get into all of that. I want to talk about the Warriors a little bit more because how did you hear about the audition?
I heard about it because I had an agent at the time and I wasn't getting anything, and I got an agent through. I had a girlfriend at the time when I was going to Hampshire. I graduated from Hampshire College in 1976, and we were close. Her name was Andrea, rest in peace. And her brother was an actor, played Danny Zuko on Broadway, and he had a girlfriend who was also a Broadway actress. And they liked me, and we got along, and they got me an agent, and I wasn't getting anything. And then I got sent for this Warrior thing. I had an agent, I forgot who he was, and I went for it, and I had this big attitude, and I was really, I wasn't getting anything. When I was in college, I had my own group. It was called Moto Theater. It was mostly improvisational group. This is after I served my apprenticeship in Napa Valley, California, which was beautiful. I thought I was going to Hollywood, but the bus was going north and not south. And we kept going. I already spent all my money getting high in New York before that. So I didn't have no money. I had high heels and all that. I was very New York spaced out. And we're going up. I'm seeing cows and shit. They left me off on this dirt road. And these bunch of hippies came, and that was the actors in the theater group. And they took me to a shed, looked like a shack up, and it was behind the Mondavi wineries, and it was a shack, and it had the grapes, and they held up by these prune props, and that's how we used to steal the prune props and build our sets, like for Streetcar Named Desire, because it was the Napa Valley Theater Company. So, anyways, I'm out.
Got a nice jingle to it. I like it.
Yeah, it was. We had a good times, and at first I saw a deer and it scared the shit out of me. I thought it was a big dog. But
I guess living in the city, you're not used to seeing deer.
Yeah, I thought it was a big dog, and also I was living with vegetarians, and it was just a totally different. These white freaks. It was just totally different, weird experience, and I loved it.
Well, while we're talking about that, I want to get into the rattlesnake story. Since we're talking about the deer.
Oh, the rattlesnake story.
Yeah, there's a great rattlesnake story that you have.
Yeah. Well, first I'll tell you what I got. Okay, I thought I was gonna be a big actor. I was in Hollywood, and when I got to the theater the next day, because I arrived at night, and when I got to the theater the next day, they gave me a broom. I was so upset, but I had spent all my money already, so I didn't even know how to get out of there. So I learned how to sweep and respect the stage.
Yeah.
But the rattlesnake story. Oh my God. So it's funny because I had a premonition. They had told me that there were rattlesnakes in the area, but people who had lived there had told me that they had never seen it. And I knew deep in my heart that I was going to see a rattlesnake. I just knew it was going to happen. I even dreamt it. And I had a girlfriend at the time who came from Boston because my school was in Massachusetts. This was, let me see, I entered in 72. So this was the summer of 73. My professor, Gladden Schrock, knew I had never seen the place. So he said I needed to learn about the theater. So he got me the apprenticeship. So anyways, I'm out there. She came out from Boston to hang out with me. Her name was Sunshine, of course. It was 1973. And we, tripping out on the roof of the shack, and playing music. I think we only had 2 albums. We had Al Green and Van Morrison. Those were the only 2 albums we had. That's all we needed. But she saw the snake. So the snake, I said, leave it alone. Leave it alone. You know, we don't fuck with the snake. The snake won't mess with us, you know. And she was like, no, you have to kill it. I said, kill it. I don't want to. How am I going to kill this thing? You know, I know how to box a little, but I don't fucking going to kill this snake. You know, you crazy? So she said, no, you got to kill it. So because it's under the where you enter. So, you know, I didn't know what to do. And there was a fireplace. There was a place where you could make a little fire. It was out like a chimney thing outside the house. So it wasn't really built. So there were bricks. So I decided to brick it to death. And it was just horrible. I just kept throwing the fucking bricks. The thing kept turning up. And I didn't really want to kill the thing. And, you know, it turns out I learned on a Chinese menu, you know, I like Chinese food, that I was born year of the snake. I think that was 1953 was the year of the snake. But, yeah, so eventually he died, and I felt terrible about it. But I did cut his tail off. Yep. Needless to say, Sunshine and I didn't make it too good after that, because that was it. You know, that was it. But, yeah, she was beautiful, Sunshine. Yeah. Back in down, but
City Boy in the Country.
Yeah,
that's a movie right there.
How are you gonna kill this snake? I'm gonna wrestle the motherfucker. I don't know what to do.
You might have had a better chance of boxing it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, right. I just wanted to leave it alone.
Well, getting back to the Warriors, I love this story, because as you were waiting to do your audition, you had a very interesting person sitting next to you, and you had no idea who it was.
Well, okay, so already, so that goes back to my audition to the Warriors. So you know, at this point, I didn't give a shit anymore. I was working in Bloomingdale's, and it was an okay job. It was a union job. I'm always been a union guy, and I used to hang out this. It used to be famous. They moved it recently, but it was on 60th in Lexington, across the street from Bloomingdale's, the Subway Inn. So I had you know. It was okay. I had a good job, blah, blah, blah. And so I went. I wasn't getting any parts, so I had an attitude. I got the audition, so I decided to go. I had a black T-shirt, silver letters that said Bronx, and I was living in the Bronx. No, actually, I was living in Queens with another girl. Yeah. And I had shorts on, and I had my blue Pumas, Clyde Frazier sneakers, and they were blue suede, and all my socks were blue because of it, because when they got wet, your socks get blue. But and I had my 8x10, a little resume, and a bottle of rum. So a little bottle of Bacardi. Mm-hmm. So I go to the audition, and you know, there was just a lot of people there, you know, because of the different gangs and stuff like that, whatever. So I wasn't really paying it no mind. Take my little sip. And then this white guy sat down next to me, and he was talking, blah, blah, blah. And I took a sip. I said, you want a sip? He said, no, that's okay. We keep talking, blah, blah, blah. And he disappears. And then finally I get called in. When I called in, it was Walter Hill, was that white guy that was sitting next to me. So apparently he was going around and checking people out. And I didn't even have to say a word. He knew who I was. And he said, Apache, I got this part. And I wish I'd have met you sooner, which always had me in my mind thinking, what if, you know, what if, who knows? It would have been totally, it would have went in a little different direction, I think. I don't know. But I would have said, take a cab. Call a gypsy cab. We can get the Coney. Fuck all this. But yeah, so he said, you wanted this part? And I said, sure, I'll take it. And it changed my life. I didn't know it at the time, even when I finished it. I mean, I wasn't invited to any after parties or nothing like that. I never heard about it again. It was just a gig. It was only as time started going on that the Warriors, like, this is a buzz. It was this weird. It was like a little buzz, and then You know, it's like, yeah, I'm in that. You're in that. You know, here's a free drink. Boom. You're in the Warriors? Yeah, boom. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So yeah, it started opening doors. However, my life took a left turn at that point, and I wound up in the record business. One of my good friends and roommates, and we're still boys, Arthur Baker,
Yep.
was one of my roommates in college. And imagine Arthur Baker, one of the parties that we had, he was always DJing. But he had come to New York. He's from Boston, and we got in touch again. And he said, "Patsy, you want to be in the record business?" And I was like, "Sure, why not?" Why not? I know nothing of music, but why not? Okay, you know, you're young in those days. You try anything.
Yeah.
And next thing I know, I'm in Long Island City, picking and packing records in a warehouse. I mean, picking, packing, and sending them out. You know, in boxes, picking and packing records. Not exactly my idea of the record business at the time, but it helped me learn about the different record labels, and Arthur and I were in charge of the 45 department. If you remember, whoever listens to this may not know what a 45 was, but it was the little, you know, where you had two songs, one in the front and one A side and the B side, and you had a little spindle that used to play your 45s, and those were the records that you would also see in the jukebox. So from that,
I remember them well.
From that, I learned the labels and then the distributors, and then Arthur went off doing his thing, and then I became Arthur became a national record salesman. Then I became a national record salesman, where I was like what MCA would give me the late, you know, we were a record distributor. Yeah. So we would get from the major labels, and we'd call up and, you know, sell records to the record stores, you know, all over. At one point I was so good that now I can't stand the phone. You know, it's hard to get me on the phone. I don't like talking. Texting was made for me.
Yeah.
But I was so good at the time. I had a account where I was selling 8-tracks. Now, if you don't know what 45s is, 8-tracks is really going to throw you. But I was selling 8-tracks to a funeral home in Cuthbert, Georgia. So that my game was that good. But it was a fun job because you know, you had all the latest records, you know, and that was a fun time in the 80s. And then you had the little independent record labels breaking acts, you know, creating music, the house music, hip hop, breakdancing. That all came from the little independent record labels, you know, putting out those 12 inches and stuff. So it was fun being part of that scene. And then I would. What
was this, Streetwise Records?
Oh no! Then Streetwise Records came after.
Okay.
Arthur created Streetwise Records with another roommate of mine, Paul McCraven, from my Hampshire college days, and he invited me again. He looked out for me and invited me in. And from there, I would call all the record distributors to make sure Streetwise Records was there. And then from there, we were breaking acts, and that's what the independent record labels did. A guy named Maurice Starr brought in a demo. Demos used to be the little cassettes, you know, and of a group from Roxbury, from the Projects. And, you know, between you and I and whoever's listening to this, it was a complete ripoff of the Jackson 5. But the Jackson 5 was old by that time. So population for little girls of color didn't really have somebody for them. The Spanish kids, we had Menudo. But I remember, because back then I didn't have to ever buy tickets for any group. I can go any group. I was Apache Ramos and go anywhere backstage, but I had to buy tickets for Menudo and in Radio City for my goddaughter Monique and her little friends. I'll never forget that. But anyways,
well, I was gonna say, let me stop you for a second, because you had it better. The white kids had new kids on the block.
Well, that's way before New Kids on the Block.
No, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, it was way before New Kids on the Block.
I remember Menudo very well. And I know who.
New Kids on the Block is really, I think the same guy, Maurice Starr, came with the same formula, but the group was called New Edition and Candy Girl. It broke out, and when we put Candy Girl out, it was like it just blew up. It just blew up. Candy Girl just blew up. Then Mr. Telephone Man came out, and it just blew up. It was like Streetwise Records. I never forget. I had my Streetwise Records jacket, and I could go anywhere. And we were a very hot independent record label. Besides New Edition, we had Lolita Holloway and who else was with us? There was a group from England called Freeze, and we had a song called AEIOU, and that shit just blew up. I remember the Puerto Rican Day Parade, everybody singing, you were teaching your kids the vowels. In fact, I got my grandson, I got him into the AEIOU, his vowels. But yeah, we had that, we had Lolita Holloway, and then I brought in a guy called Colonel Abrams, which sounds like a PR nightmare, sounds like a guy from the Israeli army or something, but he was really one of the beginners of house music. Colonel Abrams' Music is the Answer. And actually, I fell in love with him because he had a ballad called Leave the Message Behind the Door that to me was a womb beater, a baby maker, and a cradle shaker. It was really, really hot. And at that time, I had a roommate named Russell, and I was living on 183rd Street in the Grand Concourse. And I was on the first floor, and Colonel Abrams was like about 6'2", and he used to knock on my window and give me demo tapes, let me hear his music. In fact, after New Edition, we broke out with New Edition. We also had Eartha Kitt. I have a great Eartha Kitt story. But
well, let me tell my viewers right now, we talked about, some of you might not know what a 45 or an 8-track is, but New Edition had a very young Bobby Brown.
Well, Bobby, Bobby was my favorite. I have my Bobby Brown stories, but I wish him all the best always. I think he was just on TV the other day. He was on. I missed him a few times after I last saw Bobby, because but I have to go back, and I have to go back. So New Edition just blew up, and then we had the hottest record label, independent record label. There was us. It was Tommy Boy Records with Planet Rock, and it was Sugar Hill with the Sugar Hill Gang, and it was us with New Edition, and you had Emergency Records, and we were all, even though we were competing with each other, we go to the radio stations on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. You go to BLS, you go to KTU, you go to KISS, you hustling your records. And then you had to, because I don't know how they do it now, but back then you had to coordinate radio with retail, with club play. You had to make sure that the record was in the record store. And it was hard to get it in the record store if it wasn't being played on the radio. Yeah. And if it wasn't played on the radio, you couldn't get the record store to buy it. And then that's why we had to depend on club play. So you had to make sure all the different record pools had the record. You had to service the record pools. And then you had to go out at night to make sure they were playing that record. You were really hoping that Larry Levan would play that record at the garage and that it would be a hit, because then the word of mouth, and then the record stores, the 12-inch buyers, the 12 inches, the dance music would buy the record because they heard Larry play it. And then since they'd be at the record store so the DJs could buy it, then the radio stations might play it. So it was a constant battle. It was you were always working. It was hot. It was great. It was a kind of job that you were proud to be of. You felt like being a part of something big. It was very hip. And then all of a sudden, one day we had the hottest little record label, and then all of a sudden I come to work and the record label is bought by somebody I don't really want to talk about too much, but when they say number one with a bullet, they're not playing in the record business. I'll just put it that way. So by that time, the majors had swooped up on New Edition. Okay, and MCA Records had New Edition, and the people who were the new management team for New Edition liked the work I did, and I had a little bit of a reputation, and they hired me to. It was AMI management, and at that time we brought in Colonel Abrams, so it was we had AMI Productions. We had a group from uh, uh, Flint, Michigan, where Carl Banks came from, Giants, but Flint, Michigan, and they were called Ready for the World. And Ready for the World is on my wall. Ready for the World were in gold and platinum. And they're most known for a record, was the only pop, #1 pop record. Remember, there was different, there was dance music, there was R&B, and then there was pop music. So the ultimate is pop. And that was the only #1 pop record I ever worked was Oh Sheila by Ready for the World. Oh Sheila. So they were the groups I was responsible with the AMI management team was New Edition, and then Bobby Brown. When Bobby went solo, I went with Bobby. And
Good.
and then we had Ready for the World. And then, of course, Colonel Abrams, who had a monster hit. We had #1 UK platinum, was in my bedroom wall, from the UK, called Trap. I'm trapped, I'm so confused. So it was pretty good. And I had a reputation because every summer I would go to the Jack the Rapper convention in the ATL Atlanta. And that's where all the black radio programmers and retail and radio stations across the country would meet, and then you would bring your groups and break them out. And one year I got an award from Isaac Hayes, of all people, for my total involvement with black radio, black music. Jack the Rapper it was the Isley Brother Award.
Good.
And he was born on Christmas Day, and I was born on Christmas Eve, which is really funny. But yeah, so I had a reputation for all that, and then that was gone.
I want to stop right there for a second because I want to go back to Streetwise Records, because you said it was going well. Then all of a sudden you walked into work one day and they said, "All right, it's through." Somebody bought out. Who is the one that was it? Arthur Baker that sold it to these people, or did he have a say in this?
Well, Arthur could tell his own story about that, but I just know that Arthur and I always, he always looked out for me. It's just,
good.
It's just the record business, and gangsters took it. That's how it happens, Okay. So that's enough talk there. I ain't gonna leave it like that, but but I was lucky that because I helped on the transition, but then. The management team of New Edition hired me because I had done such a good job with New Edition when we were breaking them out at Streetwise Records. But yeah, we also had I got to spend my birthday, Christmas Eve, with Eartha Kitt. I don't have one picture. I was in the office. We were on 43rd Street between 6th and Avenue of the Americas there, and it was a beautiful office. And it was Christmas Eve. It was my birthday, and I was in the office late because I was still making phone calls and taking calls, and I had champagne on my desk because people had sent me stuff, and it was really good. And a couple of people were in the office. We had a great sound room, so we blasted music. Who walks in? Eartha Kitt. Oh my God! So I was like, "Damn, Catwoman!"
Oh yeah,
St. Louis Blues here. And I was starstruck. I mean, this is an iconic person here, and I kept calling her Miss Kitt, Miss Kitt, Miss Kitt, and she said, "If you call me Miss Kitt one more time, I'm gonna go upside your head. My name is Eartha, and I'm from South Carolina." And from that moment on, we hit it off. And I told her it was my birthday, and I had Negro champagne there. I think that's what it was called. And she drank champagne with me, and we talked about her record because we were distributing her record. It was called Where Is My Man? Mm-hmm. And we hit it off so well. And she took me on tour with her, a couple of gigs in DC and the Baltimore area. And I don't have one picture with that, but that was a golden moment that I spent with Eartha Kitt, distributing her records, and that was Streetwise Records.
Okay.
And I wish I still had my Streetwise jacket, but I wore it to death. But I still have a new edition tour jacket. I had two of them. I had one in white, but it was stolen. My apartment was robbed one time. But yeah, I found one in my closet. I think I'll leave it for my grandson or my granddaughter. It might be really cool in the future.
So when you worked for New Edition, then you went to work for Bobby. How long did that last?
That lasted for about 2 years because I'm trying to think of the time period. When Bobby left, he came out with an album called King of Stage, and Bobby and I were close. I think Bobby and Ralphie, I was closer to them. And then when Bobby went solo, and he was just a wonderful guy. He got a lot of bad press, but I've been with him when he was a little kid. He was a little kid. I have a picture that my daughter recently found when we did a March of Dimes event, and you can see the rest of the guys dressed very conservatively, and Bobby dressed out this red and black diamonds and hearts outfit. You knew right then and there he was different. And but he had a really big heart. He had a big family that depended on him. His brother Tommy and I have the same birthday, so we got to hang out a lot because he always looked out for his brother. And I got to tour with Bobby a little bit. And I've been with him in limousines where he'll pull a car over, give a homeless person $100, and that's no joke. I've seen him do it. The guys, they were young kids, and they worked very hard. And I'm very happy for their success, and they deserve it because they really got ripped off. The record business it's
cutthroat.
Now we're going to go into. I'll move it up and I'll kick it up a notch. And
well, before we do that, I just want to talk because you met so many interesting people, and I've done my research, and you have so many great stories. I want to talk about your experience with Donny Osmond.
My Donny, that's right. I forgot about Donny. All right, so AMI Productions, they also handled John Waite from the Babies. I ain't missing you at all since you've been gone. All right, so we and my partner T did what I did, but he dealt with the white groups. But T, who could do the English accent so perfect. Oh my God, he was so funny. He would always do John Waite. So we had John Waite, and we had a group called Sabotage. They were very heavy metal. You know Sabotage, right?
I do.
And so Donnie came to the office, and he was interested in AMI management representing him, which was Steve Machot, Bill Dern, rest in peace, and Rick Smith, wherever you are. Shout out to Stephen Machot, who I'm still very close with, who just recently got buried. And he has a book out, I forget, somewhere here called Gangsters and something in the record business. He knows the real story. In fact, with him, I met Leonard Cohen. I have a great Leonard Cohen story. One time I was in the office, we were at 1501 Broadway, and that was the main office where his father, Steve Machot's father, used to represent Leonard Cohen. And one day I'm sitting there, and who's there? Leonard Cohen. And Leonard Cohen and I are hanging out. And, I'm like hanging out with Leonard Cohen. We're talking, blah, blah, mad cool guy. And I was saying, we should get you and Bambaataa together. And he thought that was a great idea. African Bambaataa at the time was very hot with Planet Rock. And so we got to be friends, and he gave me tickets to see him at Carnegie Hall, and I got to hang out with him. But
you met a lot of interesting people in the music world and in
yeah, my daughter calls me the Puerto Rican Forrest Gump.
I love that. That's
yeah,
great.
because in college when I was acting, I used to go to Smith. Hampshire College is in the. If you go to Hampshire College back then, I don't know what's happening now. You could. It was in the Amherst area, so you go to Amherst Smith, UMass, and Mount Holyoke. It was 5 colleges. So I tended to go take classes at Smith and Mount Holyoke because they were all girls. So I would go there a lot. That was the kind of guy I was. So I remember I auditioned for a play at Smith College written by Paul Carter Harrison called The Death of Boogie Woogie. And I got the part of a character called Chocolate Chip, and it was Detroit 1940s. I still remember one of my lines, a dollar and a dime, buy you 6 pretty white horses. I still remember that line. But also in the play was Martin Luther King's daughter,
Yes.
Yolanda King, and rest in peace, because she passed away too. Damn, that's the shit about getting older, you know. You lose more people than you get to know. But yeah, so Yoki, we used to call her Yoki, was in the same play as I was, and we got to be close and we got to be friends, and except for when I was in public with her, I always felt very protective because she looked just like her father, you know. But other than that, she was a cool person. And then through her, I met Coretta Scott King and I met Dexter. I didn't meet Martin Luther King Jr. And then when we had the Martin Luther King first annual celebration, I helped put the bands together with Dexter. And I wish I still had the sweatshirt that they gave me. I mean, I know that I should have just wrapped it up and never wore it, because it's turned into dust. My daughter wound up with it. But yeah, that's another thing. That's another reason why she calls me the Puerto Rican Forrest Gump. But
well, I want to talk about you. Like I said, you met everybody's. I love that analogy. Puerto Rican Forrest Gump. But Chris, you met Martin Luther King Jr.'s daughter. Also, you have a connection with Treat Williams. How's that connection?
Well, that was the actor that
Danny Zuko.
That was the actor that played Danny Zuko. Damn, you really do your research. Yeah, Treat Williams was very good to me, and it was his sister that her and I were that was my girlfriend for the longest time. I met her at Hampshire College, and in fact, my 8x10, I'm wearing one of Treat's shirts. But I met him when he was playing Danny Zuko on Broadway, and he was always really, really good to me. He was just a good guy. He was just a good guy. And yeah, it was his girlfriend. Her name was Janie Sell, who was a Broadway actress at the time, who got me the agent, who got me the part in the Warriors, and that's the connection there. Yeah.
It all goes back to that. I love it.
It all goes back to that, yeah. And then I found out years later that Andrea is no longer with us, which makes me sad, because that's the magic of Facebook. Facebook happened because when my daughter got married, she's like, Dad, we can't be as tight as we used to, but these people keep trying to reach you through me, because when I left the record, okay, let's not go there yet. Let's get still in the record business. MC, okay, so we very successful with the management company, but then that folded. Then that went its way too, because that's the way the record is. You're only as good as your last hit. So
unfortunately.
So then I was out of work again, and I got a call because I had a good reputation. I got the opportunity to road manage the Fat Boys, which we did 50 cities in 25 days, and it was the only time I was the slim one on tour. And I never laughed and ate so much in that amount of time, because they were like the Black Three Stooges, and they were just fun guys to be around, and people loved the Fat Boys. And wherever we went, they wanted to take pictures of the Fat Boys eating their food, and we would have so much food on the bus. And there's so many. They used to like to play jokes and pranks on each other, and these are big guys, and they like to wrestle on the bus, and I'm just a little guy. I know I used to get off stage. People thought I was a lot taller than I was, but I'm 5'6", and these guys bouncing each other on the bus used to kind of freak me out. But they loved food and they loved ladies, and that was a fun tour. There's only one of the Fat Boys left, because we lost Prince Marky D, I think 2 years ago now. I think it's 2 years, maybe no, it's a year that Prince Marky D, the Puerto Rican one, passed away. He was like a DJ in Miami or Florida or something. And Cool Rocksky, he's still around. Thank God, he's on my Facebook list. But and then Buffy, one of the original human beatboxers. I mean, he was one of the originals. He passed away early. But part of my job, okay, so all right, let me tell you a funny thing. Okay, so on the road, Buffy, he was big, so he had to sleep in the back of the bus, and they had like a barber's chair for him, and they had the air conditioning on full blast. He couldn't sleep in the bunk. So I'd be doing the books in the front and talking to the driver, and we had 2 drivers. When you do 50 cities in 25 days, you got 2 drivers. So one of them, Doug, he was the captain of the ship. He was a biker guy. And then we had Big Daddy, and Big Daddy, he looked like Ric Flair. He doubled as a driver and a bodyguard. Also, he was a kick-ass guitar player. So anyways, you talk a lot on these tours. And then in the middle of the night, Buffy in his underwear, he was big. I don't want to know how many pounds. He was my size, but he was huge.
Yeah.
His underwear would be the only guy who knew how to work the microwave oven, which is on the front where we were. So there would be so many sandwiches in that microwave oven that he would collect during the day, because people always giving us food. And this is when we were coming out of Philly, and we had those Philly cheesesteak sandwiches. And he would pretty much be sleepwalking, and he pushed the remote and whatever, and the thing would turn around. You could just see him drooling. It was like 40 Deuce in a Vanessa Del Rio, booth. It was like that. He was just so excited. And then he would eat a sandwich and tip to the back, and we would just laugh so hard. But yeah, okay. So then this is when I knew that my days were numbered in the record business, because we were in Memphis. And part of my job as road manager was to get out and go into the venue before the act comes in, to make sure everything is cool, that they're not put in an embarrassing position. Just want to know where the dressing room is, so we can get them in and we get them out off the bus. So I'm going in, and Doug is in front of me, the driver. He's the biker guy. And all of a sudden, somebody starts shooting. There's bullets flying all over the place. So I don't know. My guardian angel has worked overtime, because your guardian angel, I read your history. It's
Yes.
a miracle you're even talking from what I've seen for you. But these bullets, I don't know, they missed me and they caught Doug in the ass. So Doug was a really greasy guy. So Big Daddy, the bodyguard, comes running out, and he goes, "Who got hit?" I said, "Doug." And so where did he get hit? He got hit in the ass, and then everybody backs up. So we lay him down on the couch, right? Because nobody wanted to touch him because he's nasty. And we get the guys to safety. And so the ambulance comes. I don't know how the bullets missed me, but they missed me. And I spent that night in the Elvis Presley Memorial Hospital as they took care of Doug. And back then was the new cell phones. It was fucking huge. It was, I'm calling New York, from the Elvis Presley. So he wouldn't stay in the hospital. So thank God he wasn't hurt bad. And it was only a 22 that hit him in the ass. So, they gave him antibiotics, blah, blah, blah. And they gave him a big bar of soap, which was the joke for the rest of the tour. The Elvis Presley cure for bullet wounds was soap for Doug. And he's the captain of his ship. He didn't quit. He wasn't going to give up the ship. But as the tour kept going, the bullet was getting bigger. By the end of the tour, he got hit with a bazooka and lived. That was
I'm glad he wasn't hurt badly.
I'm glad too. But that's when I knew, because why are you going to shoot at the Fat Boys? Fat Boys was about fun. That's when, and then that's when gangster rap was starting to come into the scene. I think it was like 1989, because that was their last tour. It was a lounging tour, and they broke up after that. So that was the end of it. And I remember gangster rap, because we used to play. They used to play. The Fat Boys used to like to listen to some country, some some Bible music, some Christian music early in the morning, and then shoot right into NWA, Fuck the Police, and then at that time some Bobby Brown music. That would be the pretty much the routine in the morning. But that was towards the end of the record business, my days in the record business. And then when I came back, then the tour ended, was in New Orleans, and everybody cut out. I woke up and everybody was gone already. Everybody just wanted to go home. So I got home and had enough money to live for a while. At that time, my wife was working in computers. No, she was working I had originally met her because Ray Shepley worked as for Sugar Hill Records and represented Sister Sledge, Grandmaster Flash, and the Sugar Hill Gang. And that's how I met her, because she bought me a demo tape to Streetwise Records at the time, because I was doing A&R at the time. And I turned it down. And then a couple of years later, we had jazz. So that was it. But then I was home and I was playing Mr. Moms and putting jazz in the bathtub, bubble baths, playing Aretha Franklin's greatest hits. It was like 50 cuts on that. She'd be like a raisin. And anyways, then I had to get a real job, and I had to get a job again. And we were running out of money. We were living in Union City. We had a view of New York, and it was just nice. So I had to get a real job, and I said, "Fuck, I have a degree." I forgot all about my degree. So I was reading the Amsterdam News, and they were looking for caseworkers. Meanwhile, I was familiar with the AIDS virus because of the club action, and I knew people were dying. And I remember they were calling it GRIDS at one time, gay-related immune deficiency GRIDS. And I wasn't afraid of the virus. A lot of people were very afraid of it. I wasn't afraid of it because I knew you had to earn it, And, you just didn't get it by me touching you and that kind of thing, which a lot of people was afraid of it. So I applied. I was reading the Amsterdam News, and they waived the New York City residency to work in social services. So I started working, and my first gig, my first assignment was the South Bronx with people who were homeless who just had apartments. So here's another Forrest Gump story for you, my friend. Okay, so my first month, I forgot what the program, Office of Family Services. So I was working with families who were homeless, or individuals who had just got apartments. So it was a really sweet gig. I got to take them to the museum. I had to take a group. Little did I know, we went to the museum, and I found out a couple of years later that one of the greatest Latin singers, and you can see her on the Dick Cavett show on YouTube. Remember Dick Cavett?
Oh, I do.
Yeah. So La Lupe, which was my mother's favorite, was one of those people that was in my group. Because she went from, you got to look up La Lupe. She went from like being this outrageous Latin performer to her religion, just a little old lady that had lost it all because of lifestyles and stuff like that. But she was part of that group. So that was another Forrest Gump thing. And that was like my mother's play. Every Saturday she would play La Lupe cleaning the house. That's like a tradition. Play music and clean the house.
Yeah.
And then from there,
well, I want to stop right there. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that the story where she thought you were there to clean the fish?
No, I haven't gotten to the fish yet.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump ahead.
No, that's good. But I'm glad you told me that, because I wouldn't have remembered. So then from there, they had a new unit called the AIDS unit, and it was fairly new, but you would get paid extra money, but a lot of people did not want to work in that unit. And like I said, I wasn't afraid of the virus then. So for the little extra money, and being that I would have been familiar with it, I volunteered for that group. So I worked with the Division of AIDS Services from 1990 to 1999. When I got promoted, that's another story. But during that time, I worked for the Division of AIDS Services, and we were on the front line of the AIDS virus, I'm proud to say. And so I went from limousines to being stuck in a project elevator full of piss, wondering with a bag full of condoms. In fact, my first, I remember having this they would give you these big bags of condoms, right? And I got home with my wife at the time. We had a big fat cat. It was my daughter's cat called Pepsi Cola. Knocked over my bag and all these condoms fell on the floor. My wife says, "What kind of job you got now? What kind of job is this?" But
Yeah.
so I got to work with the AIDS population. So when I would get a pending, and within 48 hours, I had to make a home visit, and sometimes the person would be dead. So it was a job that people were glad to see me, and I was proud to be part of. But it took a toll on me because I saw so much death. I mean, it was terrible.
Well,
It
that
was-
was also a time where people were, as you mentioned, there's a lot of ignorance, and it had nothing to do with them. It's just that it was brand new, and people were afraid that if they breathed on you, then you would catch the disease. So you're working at that time when it was very new and there was not a lot known about it, and there was a lot
My
of
office was on 30th
fear.
and 8th Avenue. It was right across the street from the post office, the giant post office, 30th and 8th Avenue.
Mhm.
And it was the welfare building on 30th and 8th Avenue. We were on the top floor. Even among coworkers, you press the top floor and they would just ease away from you on the elevator.
Yes.
So you felt that, And, I felt the way my clients felt. I knew how they felt like lepers. There's some scenes. There's a scene. I don't know if you ever seen Papillon with Steve McQueen.
Oh yeah, I have.
With the lepers. Well, one of my first clients, he was I think he was from Colombia, and his girlfriend, it wasn't his girlfriend because he was gay, but they were very close. She was from Romania,
Mhm.
and she loved him so much, and they were hairdressers, and he didn't trust anybody. And I remember him smoking a joint, and he passed it to me, and I took a hit of it, and it just reminded me of the scene with Steve McQueen with the leper,
Yes.
for the leper to trust him, and he passed him the cigar and stuff like that. But yeah, it was a different scene for me, and I really took that job to heart, and it got to be a point where a lot of my coworkers were like from Nigeria or Russia, or they came from countries that some of the lifestyles were difficult for them to deal with. I'm going to put it that way.
Yeah.
So we would trade clients. So they would call me Ramos, King of Queens, because
The original King
I had
Queens.
all the queens, and they would say that Ramos would take care of you, and that's what I would do, my Ramos to the rescue thing. I would have my little Ramos, but I had to keep a journal. So let's get to the fish tank. So in about 1994 is when they first started diagnosing women with HIV because of uterus cancer and that kind of stuff. And so I started getting pendings from women, women referrals. You had 48 hours to make the home visit. And I had this one woman, I can't remember her name right now, but I kept journals because I had to keep journals. I was drinking a lot in those times. And we had the Blarney Stone was right downstairs where I used to cash my checks, run a tab, play my numbers, everything was there. And only the people from the Penn Station that worked in the railroads would go there, or the post office, the giant poster, or the welfare center. So it was a working man's bar, So I got lost my train of thought again. Keep me focused.
We're talking about we're going to the fish tank story.
Oh, the fish tank. Okay, so she's my first pending. It's a woman client. And I used to get a form called an M11Q, which used to tell you the diagnosis and what this client needed. And part of my job as a caseworker for the Division of AIDS Services was to make a home visit. And you made the home visit, and you got to see how this person was living, and you could assess them and see what they needed. Because A, they would need public assistance, food, and B, they would need their Medicaid, and they would need their rent paid because, they couldn't function anymore. So you had to help them out. So when I got there, she let me into the apartment. She was one of my first women clients. The other one I'll tell you is more of a funny story. But this one, she was really bad shape. You could tell that she had dementia. and she thought I was there to clean her fish tank.
Yeah.
And when I looked at the fish tank, it was just black water. It was just black water. That's when I knew she was gone. But this was a woman. This is the story, because you see, she had HIV. But how did she get HIV? She was a bodybuilder, and when I got to her trust, when she got to trust me, she showed me all of her bodybuilding. I have one of her pictures that I kept in one of my journals that I never read them. I just write them and I leave them. But I have her picture. She's beautiful body, beautiful sister. But she got it because her husband was an IV drug user. So that's how she got it. It just breaks your heart. Another one of my first women clients was, because I had a lot of transsexuals and transvestite, those kinds of, but the actual women, I hate to say it like that because that might be the wrong thing to say, but
Now you can say whatever you want here in the Claus Corner.
yeah, with the women clients I had, one of the first ones was Liana Valdez, and she lived in one of the welfare hotels. When I knocked on the door, this man ran out of the room, and the door slammed, and so I knocked again, and then she goes, "Who is it?" And I go, "This is Mr. Ramos from blah blah blah, Division of 8 Services." And so she opens the door. She has no clothes on, and she's totally emaciated because of she was suffering full-blown AIDS. I didn't get people that were just HIV. They had to have full-blown AIDS at that time. Yeah. And she said, "Are you my chocho worker?" Which is funny if you're Puerto Rican or Spanish, which, she's saying like, "Am I her chocho worker?" I said, "No, I'm your social worker. Please put your clothes on before I enter the thing." And she was smoking that crack. You could see the pipe coming up. So you could see the smoke coming up. And the first thing she says to me, she says, "Oh, here's my grandson. Here, say hi. This is my grandson, Hendrix. Look how big he is."
Hey, Hendrix, how you doing?
See that hair?
Rich. Oh, yeah.
The heir apparent to the orphan throne. There it is. And that's Lola Chuleta.
Oh, are you another proud orphan?
He can't hear you. He says,
okay.
"Are you a proud orphan?" He says, "Yeah."
All right.
Yeah, he wears the shirts now. It was funny because he was more into Frozen and Star Wars, so he was not into the warrior thing at all. But he's starting to he's big enough to start wearing my hoodies and shit like that now. So he wore it to school, and his teachers asked him, two of his teachers asked him, "Where'd you get that?" And he goes, "Oh, my father was in the movie. They asked him to get autographs." So he came to me, his science teacher, one other teacher,
I love it.
Autographs. It's so funny. So now he's like, "Well," and then when I came back from Florida, I spent a year in Florida during the pandemic, away from everything. And he's like, "Grandpa, my teachers asked you if you would give them an autograph." I said, "Sure, no problem. As long as they pass you." No.
I like that.
No, he's great.
Well, you know what? I love the names of your grandkids. I know Hendrix after Jimi Hendrix, and you also have Santana.
Santana, Carlos Santana.
Yes.
I first saw Santana in 1969 in the Fillmore East, and it was good times. I was doing bad things at that time, but I heard this guy goes, "Okay, I'm doing something really bad," but that's the way I was living back then. Anyways, this guy named Gonzalo says, "You want to hear some rock music?" I don't want to hear no rock. Everything was Latin music and Motown at the time, and there was the first album with the lion on it with all the faces on it. I put it on and did what I was doing, and I was like, "Man, this is like, I feel this." And then a couple of weeks later, I was fiending on the Lower East Side looking for some product, and I saw the Fillmore East, and Santana was going to be there. And I said, "Let me go see Santana." And it was Santana, Balling Jack, and the Voices of East Harlem for like $7.
Wow.
And somebody passed me a doobie, and it changed my whole life. And I was a Santana fan after that. But yeah, Santana, Ruby Ray. And both my grandkids were Student of the Month on the same time. One is in kindergarten, one's in first.
Congratulations.
But this back to the virus thing. My granddaughter didn't know what it's like to go to school without a mask. So when they finally dropped the mask thing, I thought it was such a sad thing that they never really saw their faces unless they're eating,
Yeah.
As soon as we took the mask off, they got sick again. You know, they didn't catch, thank God, they didn't catch the virus, but one of her classmates now has the virus, and she came home with and had the flu. It's like, it's tough out there, man. It's tough. I think I'm going to start wearing the mask again, I think.
Yeah.
But
No, it was funny because I used to work in the pharmacy business. I was in the manager of Rite Aid and CVS. So I have a lot of friends who are pharmacists, and they were telling me last year in 2020, there was no flu at all because everybody had masks on. So they didn't even know what the flu vaccine was going to be like because nobody got sick. And then all of a sudden this year, because the mask came off, everybody's starting to get sick. And
yeah, it went up 25% in a week this week. So I'm going to go back to wearing a mask.
yeah,
Because due to my health issues, I had to be really, really careful. And my daughter caught it twice.
yeah, I had it once.
Yeah, I swear I did have it, right? And my daughter goes, Dad, you was asleep for 2 weeks. Right after the Super Bowl, you were asleep for like 2 weeks. Right after J-Lo and
Shakira.
Shakira, man, about the next month, everybody was sick in March, man. And then the bodies were dropping. But I wound up in Florida for a year with a nurse. But that's another story. All right, so the Division of AIDS Services, man, was right on the front lines, and it was just so sad. I had one time. I have so many stories. At one time, I used to have a couple. They were in their 60s, and that was really old for people with AIDS at that time. And they lived at the Barber Hotel, which is the city used to pay these horrible places $1,500 a month for these one rooms, sharing the bathrooms with other people on the hallway, just nasty places. You open the door, you fall in, you land on the bed. But anyways, Pansy and I can't think of his name right now. Anyways, he used to come up with his shopping cart. He was starting to get dementia, and since they lived so close to the welfare center, he would always stop by, and I just knew what a pain in the ass this guy is. But I never said that. Leave me alone. But I would always talk to Mr. Robinson. That was his name. I would talk to him. Then eventually he died, right? Because all my clients died, and so Pansy was still alive. So Pansy got to keep the room, and then eventually Pansy died. So when Pansy died, I knew she had relatives. And so I went to the hotel room, and the guy let me in because they knew me. So they let me in her room, and I was looking to find a next of kin. And the room was full of bed bugs. It was just swamped with bed bugs. And eventually I found one of those old address books. And I was able to reunite her body with her family. But in the interim, I found Isaac in an urn. So I told, I can't think of his dad, I think it was Frankie, the hotel manager. What are you going to do with Isaac? He said, I would throw him in the garbage. I was like, I can't let that happen. I just can't let that happen.
Yeah.
And so I called up Pansy's relatives and Isaac. His name was Isaac. Would you take Isaac? And they didn't want nothing to do with Isaac. They didn't want nothing to do with Isaac. So I wound up with Isaac on my desk for like 9 months. And then all the crackheads I had, I used to say, you keep smoking that crack, you're going to wind up on my desk. He was, he became like this paperweight on my desk.
Yeah.
And then I had a college reunion thing, and it was like 9 months later in Hampshire College, for the third time I'm talking about it, was built on an apple orchard. So it's just a beautiful location, just beautiful for very, very rich kids at that time. And which is how I met Harry Belafonte, which is another story.
You have a lot of good stories.
I know, my daughter tells me that. You're bringing them out of me too. So I decided then to take Isaac to Hampshire College and get rid of him. I'm exposing this. I don't know. It's too late. The statute of limitations.
Yeah.
So I think this was in 1992 or 93. anyways, I went up to an alumni thing, and we found a beautiful tree, and I said, well, we're going to get rid of Isaac here. So we did some of the students did some prayer things. Some of the students helped me out. And because I was well known then, I'm an alumni. I was one of the first Puerto Ricans to graduate from there. In fact, I graduated in 76, but I'm the class of 72, because when I went in 72, Hampshire College did not have a graduating class yet. It was so brand new, which is the reason why I went there. So we had to wait till a graduating class for it to be fully accredited. Anyways, I graduated in 76 or 72 is the year. I'm Apache Ramos from this class of 72 instead of 76. Anyways, so we took him and we had a circle around the tree and we kept passing him around. And it's amazing. Was a little emaciated man, and how much ashes were in there. It was unbelievable. Wow. So about a month later, one of the students sent me a local newspaper, and they said remains were found, that they found those ashes. But that's where I let Isaac go. But it just hurt me when the guy said, I'm just going to throw it in the garbage. I just like, nah. Even though he was, no matter how he lived, and even though he gave me a lot of problems, he was still a human being. And that was the problem with me with the AIDS thing. I got, you just couldn't help it. You try not to, but you just, no matter how much somebody was really nasty to you, or like I had one guy who I knew, the city makes a lot of mistakes. Although we take care of a lot of people, the city makes a lot of mistakes due to all the amount of people that you service. And this kid didn't get his money. He just came out of prison, and he didn't get his money when he was supposed to get his money, and that's all he wanted. And then finally, maybe a month later, he got his money retro. And I pleaded with the city. I was like, don't give him this money, just put a little bit in there. Don't give it, because I knew what he was going to do.
Yeah.
Sure enough, he got his money. He went to the movies and overdosed in the movies. That's what he wanted to do. And I knew it, but you can't do it. I had another woman that TB was one of my main concerns, because a lot of my clients got TB because they were so sick and their immune system was so bad. And I had one that was in the hospital, and because anytime I went to the hospital, I had to wear a mask, and it wasn't for me catching anything, it was for me making my clients sick, except for TB. So it was her pickup. So she needed her card, the EBT card, which I could authorize so she could get her benefits. So they warned me that she left the hospital, and she's just TB. So I was able to deal with it. Then when I went to the bar, I saw her in the bar, and these guys are hitting on her, and I know what she has, but due to confidentiality, she looks at me, I look at her, and these guys are married. They're gonna take the bus and go through the Lincoln Tunnel, and it's just, and you can't. It's confidentiality. You just can't. Just it is. You got to think.
But she didn't say anything. She never told anybody that
she was hustling.
Yeah.
She was hustling.
Yeah.
Also demented. There was a lot of people who were just sick. Just sick. Yeah. And I had amazing clients too. I had. It's hard for me to say who some of them are without you guessing, because you're so smart. But and I still respect the confidentiality, even though they've been dead for decades. But this one particular client, he was famous, so I know Uncle Jack. We wouldn't mind me talking about him, because he's the only one that lived, and he just died like 3 years ago. And he was the mother of, you have your different houses when you're in that, when you dress in drag. So there's a movie that he did that he starred in called The Queen, which came out in the 60s.
Okay.
And he was called Flawless Sabrina. And he's Queen Mother, and he's just very famous guy. And he taught my daughter how to walk in heels, and she used to call him Uncle Jack. And Titi Jack, he used to call him Titi Jack, Auntie Jack. And he was just a fabulous man with a tremendous history, and just super diva. And he had a house on Fifth Avenue. He had an apartment on Fifth Avenue, and they so wanted to get rid of him because he had that old rent thing where he's paying like, I think he was paying like $600 a month for on Fifth Avenue, Central Park, right across the street from the park. They couldn't wait for this guy to die.
Yeah.
And but part of my job was to help them keep their apartments and stuff like that. So he always told my daughter that I saved his life, but I was just doing my job. But we got to be very, very close. That he would take Jazz to the park, because at that time, Jazz was singing at the Metropolitan Opera, and I would take her for rehearsal up 8th Avenue, up 9th Avenue, because we wasn't taking no cabs. You got off at Penn Station. I mean, at Port Authority, we just walk up, 8th Avenue to Lincoln Center, and a lot of my clients were hustling on the streets, and my daughter would say, "Is that a boy or a girl?" And they would go, "Mr. Ramos, Mr. Ramos," and I would go, "They are whatever they want to be, Jazz." And then as she got old enough to walk by herself, they would look out for her. That's Mr. Ramos's daughter. So she had a good background, and also she would sing for some of my clients when they were dying. I had a German prince. I had advertising executives that made incredible slogans that very well, but if I mention it, somebody might piece it together, and I would never want to hurt anybody. But there was many times when I would go to an apartment complex and the doorman would point to the service entrance, just look at me and point to the service entrance. And, I couldn't reveal who I was, but I would go, no, I'm a friend of Mr. So-and-so or Mrs. So-and-so. But they would, that racism always comes through, always comes through.
Unfortunately.
In ways, the Spanish doorman would point to me and then do that, it's just crazy stuff. Yeah.
I want to get into one story because we talked about the fear that people had of AIDS, including your workers, but you always had such empathy. I want to talk about the time because you love to get up early. You went to work, you opened up your coffee.
Oh man, yeah, you listened so well. All right, I'll tell you that story. Okay, so I have this thing about time. I'm always the first one at work. I always had that kind of reputation of being first at work. Well, if I have an appointment, I'm going to be there an hour and a half early. I just can't help it. I just something about me. I like to be on time, or if not early. I always like that. In fact, my daughter used to get pissed off because the dentist wouldn't even be there, and I'm already there with her. The dentist is not even here. So, anyways, when the elevator door opens, it opens onto the floor. So I'm the first one at work. So I got my coffee, I got my roll, my bacon, egg, and cheese on a roll. It's one word. Bacon, egg, and cheese on a roll is one word.
Say that 3 times fast.
Yeah, bacon, egg, and cheese on a roll, one word. And I smell shit. I open my coffee and I smell shit. I was like, what? And I touched my ass to see if I had a stroke. I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm looking around, and I'm the only one in the office. And it's really strong smell. And then I'm in a cubicle. So I look around my cubicle, and one of the clients had managed to spend the night and was unconscious and was sleeping, drugged out or whatever. She wasn't unconscious. I'm not gonna say unconscious because we would call the ambulance, but was slept in their feces. And so anyways, so I moved to the back after I called maintenance, and I moved to the back. So people had started to come to work, and as they're coming off the elevator, they have their different faces, happy, sad. But as soon as they smell that thing, everybody freezes when they smell that shit. So anyways, to show you how bad AIDS was, people were afraid of, they call up my man Cruz. He was the superintendent assistant in the building. And Cruz comes upstairs and sees the situation. He goes, "I'm not picking that shit up. That's AIDS shit." So it became a big thing, and they had to go downtown and bring somebody with a spacesuit to clean that thing. That's how bad. That was like '94.
Yeah.
And I remember when Magic Johnson came out with the office, everybody was so sad because it was the kind of job that when we first started, they didn't do it for after, but they would let you go to the funerals. Like I went to a lot of funerals. At that time, they would just burn you, just ashes. They didn't have, they were just burning I forgot, I think it was the Redmond Funeral Home on 14th Street. And, but it was sad. A lot of times I'd be the only one there, or a lot of times I would see how, this was before domestic partnership. So you would see true love. I learned courage and true love during my days as a caseworker for the Division of AIDS. Extreme courage, because these people knew it was a death sentence. Because at that time it was a death sentence.
Yeah.
And they didn't have the cocktails and stuff like that. I knew that all my clients were going to die, and they knew that they were going to die. It was a really weird kind of thing where you would hear jokes like this. You think I look bad today? Wait till tomorrow. No, you had to joke about it. I'm that kind of guy. I guess you're a comedian. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
No, I always tell people you can joke about anything as long as you can make it funny. You don't have to be mean about it, but you can make anything funny.
And it's also a way to let it go too.
Exactly.
It's like,
yeah,
I'm sorry for your loss, and somebody close to you, and I'm sorry, Richard, for your loss, but what's happening with the will? You say something stupid like that.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
You and I. That's why you and I get along so well, because you and I have that same dark sense of humor. And yeah, I am the same way too. But like you said, it's a release, and
it changed my whole life.
You dealt with so many different things that you have to joke about.
Yeah, and another reason why I was so committed to the AIDS thing was because if anybody should have got that virus, it should have been me. I've always felt that deep down in my heart because of my lifestyle. Yeah. Before I turned into a good guy, I was so involved. I did everything. It was the 70s, man. It was the 70s. Multiple sex partners, IV drug use, the whole bit. Since I was like 14 years old. Growing up in the Bronx, $2 heroin bags versus $5 pot bags. The heroin wins every time. Mm-hmm. So it was so I knew that I had to do this. I just felt it was something I had to do. And I completely shut off everything to do with the record business. The Apache really didn't exist anymore. It was Mr. Ramos. It was my new thing, because I didn't know what I was so used to being called Apache my whole life that Greg just didn't sound right, Yeah. So I don't know. My mother never called me Greg, It was just, I was always called Apache, but I couldn't, I'm not going to introduce myself as Apache when I'm working in social services, They came out eventually because I have it tattooed on my arm, but, I was Mr. Ramos. I like Mr. Ramos. Ramos,
King of Queens.
The King of Queens for a while. And then, I did that. There's so many stories on the AIDS thing, around so much courage. People know they're going. Oh, that's what I want to say. The love. I saw true love, growing up as a Latino male, that macho shit, and growing up in the Bronx and all that stuff, that gay thing and all that stuff. It was fairly new, even though I had some relatives, things you had to learn about. And I saw true love, not because of people with the same sex, but just loving one human being after the other. When you wipe somebody's ass, when you take care of them and they just throwing up and you just take care of them, that's real love, man.
All of a sudden I hear, brim, brim.
What's a diaphragm again?
Ha! We caught one.
They're supposed to be weird.
Oh, yeah, no. If you say so.
I've always wanted to be in a movie.
Waiting around for autumn, waiting around for autumn.